Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into Lies of P. It's that action RPG that came out recently. Lots of buzz around it.
Yeah, definitely. And look, if you're curious about it, but maybe don't have, 18 plus hours to sink into it yourself,
Oh,
well, this is for you.
exactly. We've gone through a pretty detailed player review, someone who played it on Xbox Series X, through Game Pass, actually. Think of this as the quick version. Our mission is basically to pull out what this game is, setting, the story, how it plays, what people like about it, give you the full picture. So let's get started.
Okay, so the reviewer kind of drops you right in, starts in this place called Krat. It's like 19th century vibe, fictional city.
Right.
And the whole place runs on these mechanical puppets. They're just part of life there. And your character wakes up guided by this blue butterfly.
A blue butterfly and robot puppets. Okay, that's an image.
Yeah.
And the review makes it clear, genre-wise, we're talking Souls-like action RPG.
So for anyone new to that, think tough combat, lots of exploring, usually some deep lore hidden away. Exactly. But the really unique hook here, it's all built on Pinocchio.
Wait, the Pinocchio?
Yeah, the actual story. But I mean, obviously twisted, it's familiar ground, but way darker, more grown up.
Huh. Pinocchio is a Souls-like. That's unexpected. Now, what about difficulty? Souls-likes have a reputation.
They do. And the reviewer says, yeah, it's challenging. Definitely. But maybe not brutally hard right from the start. Like, the really tough stuff ramps up later on.
Okay, so maybe a bit more approachable initially than some others in the genre. Good to know.
And the environment, the city itself, Krat, the reviewer, really spent time on this, said it's captivating how you see these, remnants of a really prosperous, beautiful city.
Yeah.
But now it's all just chaos, puppets gone wild, everything falling apart. It tells a story just by looking around,
Visual storytelling, right. They mentioned the lots of dark colors, moody atmosphere.
Very atmospheric, but varied too. Not just endless grim streets. There are different kinds of locations within that dark palette.
Gotcha. And specific details stood out.
Yeah, rusted machinery everywhere, streets totally deserted. Gives you that real sense of decay. What happened here?
Okay. And there was one location that really stuck with the reviewer. Something about a World Expo.
Oh, yeah. The World Expo site, you hit it mid-game, apparently, and it's described as this ruin that just screams, shattered hopes, all this excitement about science and tech just gone.
Wow, that sounds powerful. A symbol of broken progress, maybe.
Could be.
Yeah.
Especially with the whole puppet theme, technology turning, that kind of thing. It fits with maybe the darker side of the Pinocchio themes, too. Ambition, consequences, what it means to be real.
Interesting. That definitely adds some thematic weight. Okay, so shifting to the story itself, the reviewer highlighted themes of ethics, lies, and truth.
Exactly. That seems to be the core. And it's not just background fluff. Your choices as the player character directly tie into this whole liar-truth thing.
So you're making decisions that impact the narrative around those themes.
And apparently, most of these choices aren't simple. No easy good or bad answer. It forces you to kind of interpret, role play a bit, lots of gray areas.
Which sounds pretty engaging, actually.
Yeah.
Keeps you thinking.
Yeah. And while most interactions are maybe what you'd expect, they did call out one specific thing, this Riddle King event. Sound like a standout moment, maybe something a bit different, worth looking out for if you play.
Okay, good tip. Let's talk gameplay then. Combat. The review called it a remix of From Software games. What does that actually mean in practice?
Well, it sounds like the basics are there,
Yeah.
Tough enemies, learning patterns, dodging, blocking, but Lies of P adds its own flavor. A big one seems to be this just guard system.
Get a perfect parry?
Sort of, yeah. Timing it right doesn't just block, it can stagger enemies, set them up for a big hit. High risk, high reward, seems quite central, especially later.
Okay, so timing is crucial. What else? They mentioned variety, special attacks.
You've got special moves using prosthetic arms, which sounds very Pinocchio adjacent, and also special attacks tied to your weapons. So lots of options.
And visually, the reviewer used the word flashy.
Yeah, they felt the animations and the look of the combat was maybe more visually impressive than some other Souls-likes. Even said the main character's design, being a puppet, kind of lends itself to this cooler, more dynamic style.
Right, playing a cool character makes sense. And customization. Can you tailor your build?
Oh yeah, big time. Lots of ways to tweak your gear, your skills, build for different play styles, and crucially, they mentioned you can respec your stats mid-game.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah. Means you're not locked in if your build isn't working or if you just want to try something totally different. Really helps with replayability, too, the reviewer thought.
Definitely lowers the frustration factor if you feel stuck. Okay, but it wasn't all perfect, right? The review mentioned some areas for improvement.
Right, for balance.
Yeah.
They felt that, as the game went on, some plot points and even some enemy ambushes became a bit predictable.
Ah, you start to see the patterns.
Kind of. And similarly, while the main story held up, some of the chats with the side characters, the NPCs, felt a little formulaic.
Okay, minor stuff, perhaps, but worth noting. But there was a bigger point about the combat changing later on, about the just guard.
Yeah, this sounds important. So earlier in the game, you might be able to get by using a mix of dodging and blocking, more flexibility. But the review strongly suggests that in the late game, you really need to master that just guard, that perfect parry. The game starts demanding it much more.
So the required skill shifts quite a bit. That could be a hurdle for some players if they haven't focused on that specific mechanic.
Exactly. It's a definite difficulty spike tied to a specific skill, seems like something to be prepared for.
Gotcha. Okay, what about the technical side? Performance. Looks
pretty solid, according to the review. Ran smoothly at 60 FPS on the Series X, which is what you want for this kind of action game.
And visually.
They were impressed. High detail on the characters, the puppets, and the environments, all that decay and atmosphere we talked about. Apparently, it looks really good, really detailed.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any notes on localization, translation stuff?
Just a small point. The reviewer played with Japanese text and noticed a few minor errors, typos, some odd kana choices. Nothing game-breaking, but, a detail.
Yeah. And the voice acting. It's English voices.
Yeah, English VO only. Generally, the reviewer felt it fit the world pretty well, though they did find one character, Geppetto, although the review noted the name slightly differently, maybe a typo in the review itself. Anyway, they felt that performance was maybe a little over the top, a bit theatrical, but overall, the audio seemed decent.
Right. So bringing it all together then, what's the final verdict from this player's perspective?
Overall, they saw Lies of P as like a really well-made, very polished Soulslike. It manages to feel familiar, but also carve out its own space with that unique setting and the whole Pinocchio angle. It stands on its own.
And they mentioned something about watching it.
Yeah, they thought because the combat is so fluid and flashy, as they put it, it's actually a pretty great game to watch someone play, like on a stream. Right. Visually dynamic.
Makes sense. So the recommendation is?
Pretty strong, yeah. Especially if you're after a stylish action game, or if you're already a fan of Soulslikes and want something new but still challenging.
Okay, so wrapping up for you listening, Lies of P sounds like a really striking, challenging action RPG. You've got this unique Pinocchio world, visually impressive, with a story focused on lies, truth, and tough choices. Yeah, maybe some bits get predictable later, and that late-game combat shift is something to be aware of. But overall, engaging fights, lots of ways to customize your character, and a super atmospheric setting seem to make it a really solid experience, especially for fans of the genre.
Which leaves us with just one last thing for you to chew on. Given the game's all about lies, and you're playing a puppet making these morally tricky choices, how does playing as a lie essentially affect how you think about your own choices and their consequences in that world? Does it change your sense of agency? Something to think about.